Oh, I'm going. It's weird. Okay, I'm good. Okay, here we go. This is lesson 12.6. Like I said, I do think this is going to be on the final, okay? I want to change something right now before I forget because it's super important. I want you to flip to example 9. This thing is long and the problems take a long time. And like I said, I do think it's going to be there, okay? I want you to take example 9 and I want you to change it, okay? So cross that out. And I want you to replace it with this. X times y equals 5 over 4, and x plus y equals 2, okay? Now, I want you to do well on the final. You want to do well on the final. I'm doing everything I can to expose myself to that review as much, so I'm starting to get a gauge of what could be on there and what couldn't. I do think this lesson will be on the final, and I think that's how it's going to be presented, just so you know. But I don't know. So I have to teach all this business to you and make sure no matter how it's presented that we are fully capable of doing it, okay? Okay, here we go with example 1. Solve the system. Well, this is just a substitution or elimination problem. That's all it is. You can solve it algebraically, that's substitution or elimination, or you can solve it graphically, okay? I have to teach you how to solve it both ways, graphically and algebraically. At first, you're going to think graphically is quite easy, and then after about 4 examples, graphically is going to get so much more difficult. I do not think graphically will be on your test, on your final, just so you know. It's listed as what I have to teach you. They told me I have to teach you graphically. I want us to be ready. Do I think it's going to be on there? No. I hope it's not going to be on there. Okay? All right. So if you look at that graph, they've already graphed this one for you. I want you to put a dot, and I want you to put a dot right there. So the solution to the circle and the line, the system, is where the two things cross. So that ordered pair right here at the top is right 3 up 4. That's 3 comma 4. The next one is right 5. Don't go up or down. That's literally the answer to your problem. Okay? It's where they cross. We're going to graph 3 kinds of things today. Okay? So I want you to write this down. The first thing we're going to graph is a line. When you graph a line, it's going to look like y equals mx plus b. You're going to know it's a line because the x is going to be raised to the first and the y is going to be raised to the first, and it's very simple. Okay? The second thing you're going to graph is a parabola. If you're graphing a parabola, it's going to be in the form of y equals a times x minus h to the second plus k. It's going to be very easy to identify that's a parabola because the x is going to be a squared and the y is going to be raised to the first. Okay? I know you guys are all extremely comfortable with both of those, right? The third thing we're going to graph is our circles. Okay? Here is the standard form for a circle. It's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to the radius squared. Now, you need to understand that the center of my circle is hk, and the r stands for the radius. And I know you guys know this, but just a little refresher, if you have a circle with a dot in the center, the radius is a straight line from the center out. Okay? If you're graphing a circle, it's going to be very easy to notice that it's a circle because the x is squared and the y is squared. So differentiating if it's a line or a parabola or circle is not going to be tough. Okay? So just a very quick look at this. Guys, look at the first equation. I know it's a circle because the x is squared and the y is squared. The next one, I know it's a line because the x is to the first and the y is to the first, okay? All right, don't go ahead of me, you guys. I'm either going to solve this using substitution or elimination. I prefer elimination. I'm always going to do elimination whenever I can because I feel like, in my opinion, it's the cleanest and easiest way to do these problems. Doing elimination on this problem is not an option. It's not an option because in the first equation I have an x to the second. In the second equation I have an x. Those don't cancel. Same thing with y's. I have a y the second and a y the first. Those don't cancel. Okay? Now, listen to this for a second. If I took equation number 1 and I solved it for x, that would be a train wreck. Because to get rid of that squared, I would have to square root and then plug it back into the other equation. I'm not doing that. Okay? Solving equation 1 for y is just as horrible. Okay? Solving equation number 2 for x is also horrible. Why is that horrible? Tell me. You have to divide by 2, which is going to create fractions. So I don't want to do that. So the best option is to take equation number 2 and solve it for y. Okay? Everybody freeze for 2 seconds. I want to say something to you. Has nothing to do with this lesson. I want you to listen. If you're solving matrices and you're either using row echelon or you're using Gauss-Jordan and you're trying to get a 1 in a certain location, but by dividing by what's there, you create fractions, don't do it. Skip it. Move to the next step. Move to the next step. Keep glancing and realize when it wouldn't give you fractions and then make it a 1. And if it always gives you fractions, do it at the very end because these fractions are not fun in matrices. Who says, I understand what you're saying to me? Great. Okay, so let's do this. Solving, yes?
So when you are skipping like the different steps,
Uh-huh.
does that affect your full answer?
No. So the order is just like a recommendation. You know on step 5 and on step 7 how you're not supposed to use row 1 or it messes up a number. So it just kind of guides you through preventing messing something up that you had before. But it's not like you can't get it if you don't follow that. I would never make fractions. Never. It's so bad. Okay? Okay, let's solve this for y. So everybody write y equals 10 minus 2x. Now I'm going to go into equation 1, and where I see a y, I'm going to put in 10 minus 2x. So I'm using substitution. So it's x to the second plus y, which is 10 minus 2x squared, is equal to 25. Now, some people do this. They say 10 squared is 100, a negative squared is a positive, 2 squared is 4, x squared is x squared. That's false. You have to write 10 minus 2x down twice and then multiply those together, okay? So when you multiply those together, you do get 100. You get a negative 20x and another negative 20x. That gives me a negative 40x. And then you have a plus. 2 times 2 is 4. X to the second equals 25, okay? Now, this is pretty messy. I can look at it and I can see I'm going to have to factor it because I have a squared. So then the next thing is to get a 0 on the right hand side. So I'm going to move my 25 over. So I have 4x plus 1x is a 5x squared, a minus 40x. The 25 comes over and becomes a negative, so I have a plus 75 equals 0. Okay? What would you do? You tell me what you would do. I would take out a 5. If you're solving, you don't have to take out a 5. Your answer will end up the same. It's so much easier if you take out a 5. So let's take out a 5. So you get x a second minus 8x plus 75 divided by 5 is 15. Yes. 15. Don't forget your equals 0. Then you factor. So it goes to x and x. Signs are the same. They're both negative. 5 and 3 multiply to give me 15 and add to give me 8. The 5 is not equal to 0, so that's not going to give me a solution. The x minus 3 gives me a 3. The x minus 5 gives me a 5. So I'm going to come over here and go 3 comma something, 5 comma something. I know I have to write it as an ordered pair because it was given to me in equation form. The nice thing about substitution, guys, is the plugging back in. Do you see here how this equation is solved for y? If you use substitution, always go to the solved equation to plug in. It's easier than anything else. So if x is a 3, you'd have 10 minus 2 times 3. That would be 10 minus 6, which gives you y equals 4. If x is a 5, then you'd have y equals 10 minus 2 times 5. That's y equals 10 minus 10, which gives you a 0, and you're done. Okay, same answer graphically and algebraically. Well, of course I'm going to get the same answer. It's the same problem. Okay, I have a question for you. Listen, I just put a study schedule together for you for the final, and I think it's about 10 hours is what it is when it all comes down to it. You're going to study for 10 hours. Then you're going to sit down and you're going to take this final, and you're going to be so ready to take it. And you're going to do a problem, and the second you finish the problem, I want you to ask yourself, is there any way I can check if I did this right? Okay, I really think about 60% of your test, you can check it. Okay, is this problem checkable? Tell me. Yes, it is. All I have to do is store in x in as 3, store in y in as 4, put it here, get a 25, put it here, get a 10, repeat it with that point, and I've checked my whole answer. Okay, all right, here we go with question number 2, nice and slowly, okay? Okay, first of all, let's do it graphically, okay? You guys, is the first equation a line, a parabola, or a circle? Talk to me. What is it? It's a line. They're both raised to the first. Everybody write line right there, okay? Talk to me about the second one. A line, a parabola, or a circle? It's a parabola, okay? Okay, in order to graph a line, I have to solve it for y. Okay, so look what I'm going to do. 2 steps in run, really 3 steps in one. I'm going to pull my y that way, my 4 that way, and then I'm going to write them on opposite sides. So the y comes over and becomes a positive. So I have a positive y. On the other side, I have a 2x. The 4 comes over and becomes a positive. So I have y equals 2x plus 4. That's a line, and it's ready to go. The parabola is easy to solve for y. You got to get it in the right form before you can graph it. Move your y over, and you get y equals 2x to the second. Okay? Now let's graph these. Let's do the line. So everybody go up 4 and make a dot. The slope is 2 over 1. So from there, go up 2, right 1. Now guys, could I graph a line using just those 2 dots? Yes. But one or more of those dots are going to be the solution. So I want you to do a ton of dots, okay? You could also go left 2, or pardon me, down 2 and left 1. So just fill that whole paper full of dots, okay? And it looks like that, okay? Now I'm going to graph the parabola. I don't go right, left, up, or down. So my vertex is still just right here. I have a normal, no, I have an abnormal stretch. Normal's 1, 1, 2, 4. I have to stretch it twice as far. So it'd be 1 times 2, 4 times 2 is 8. So from there, I'm going to go right 1, up 2, left 1, up 2. Right 2, up 8, left 2, up 8. Draw it in. Nice and accurate, nice and clean. There you go. I've got 2 answers. One is right here. The other one is right there. I put them in green. The ordered pairs are left 1, up 2. The other one is right 2, up 8, and I'm done. Okay, now you guys are looking at the graphing saying this graphing is easy, right? It's going to be easy for about 4 problems, and then it's going to get through the roof tough, okay? Okay, let's do it algebraically. Can I use elimination to solve this? You totally can use elimination, okay? Look at the y's. The only y in the top is a first, the only y in the bottom is a first, and they're almost the same. So I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to distribute a negative. So then I'm going to have a negative 2x, a plus y equals 4. Then I'm going to have 2x to the second minus y equals 0. My y's go away. Now you have to be careful with those x's, guys, because one is squared and one is not. You cannot add those together. So you have 2x to the second minus 2x equals 4. Pull your 4 over. 2x to the second minus 2x minus 4 equals 0. What would you do? Take out a 2. And you're left with x to the second minus x minus 2 equals 0. Factor, and it goes to x and x. The 2 goes to a 2 and a 1. Signs are different. Biggest is a negative. Looks like that. The 2 does not give me a solution. The x gives me a negative 1. The other one gives me a positive 2. So I know my answers are going to be -1 comma something and 2 comma something. Okay? Now, to find my y, you have to go to the original. Okay? Which one looks easier for you if you put in an x and you try to solve for y? It doesn't matter which you use. I think equation 1 looks the easiest. Okay? So let's go 2 times -1. That's -2 minus y equals -4. So I'm going to move my 2 over. -y equals -2. Divide, y equals 2. Okay? So if x is a -1, y is 2. Do the next one. What if x is 2? Then you have 2 times 2 is 4. Minus y equals -4. The 4 on the left comes over. You get -4 equals -8. Change your signs. Y equals 8. And you're done. Okay? Now, I am going to tell you this. I don't know how long ago. A couple years ago. Weber State, on their rubric, they actually required that you check it. And they gave you points on the problem for checking it. I've tried to ask them this semester, are you going to make my students show a check? And I really never got a clear response. So when we're doing the midterm review that Weber gave us, let's watch really closely if they give us points for checking. If so, they're going to require that we check. Do I think they're going to do that? No, I don't. But, you know, they could, so let's keep an eye on that. Okay, here we go with question 3. First thing we're going to do is do it graphically. Okay, everybody in the room, tell me what the top equation is. What is that? It's a circle. Let's write that down. They're both squared. That means circle. The second one is a what? Can you tell? It's a parabola. Okay? The circle is ready to go. The parabola is not. So I'm going to take this -y, pull it that way, take that -2 and pull it that way. And when I do, I get y equals x squared plus 2. Now I'm ready to graph it. Okay? Let's do the parabola because we're good at parabolas. Let's go up 2, make a dot. The stretch is normal. Right one up 1, left one up 1. Right 2 up 4. Left 2 up 4. Let's see if we can do 3, 9. 3, 9 is 1 off my grid, so I'm going to do it. Just so I've got all those points to deal with. Okay? Now let's talk about the circle. Everybody go x the second plus y the second equals 4. Underneath that, I want you to write x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to the radius squared. The center of your circle is hk. On this problem, if you look, the h is with the x, there's nothing there, so it's a 0. The k is with the y, there's nothing there, it's a 0. So the center is at the origin. You guys, if radius squared is 4, what's my radius? Tell me that. If the radius squared is 4, what's my radius? 2, the square root of 4, right? Okay, so everybody put a pencil at the origin. And now we've got to graph a circle that has a radius 2. So I'm going to go right 2, left 2, up 2, down 2. Make it look like a circle and not a triangle. You only have one answer. It's right here where they touch. And that ordered pair is 0, positive 2. And you're done. Okay? I do not think you'll have a graphing on your final. I think it's going to be algebraically. Okay, so let's do this algebraically now. Look at our equation. Can I solve this using elimination? Yes. It's all set up. I've got my equal sign set up. I've got my x squared set up, so I'm good. Guys, listen. Let's see if anybody can answer this. I could multiply this guy by a negative. Then I'd have an x squared and a negative x squared, and that would work out. I could also multiply this guy by a negative. Okay? Not both, but one or the other. One of these is better to multiply by a negative than the other one. Which one's better to do, the top or the bottom? The bottom. Why the bottom better? If you do the top, you're going to have a negative x squared, then you're going to have to factor out a negative, so it's more work, okay? So we're just looking ahead a little bit. Okay, so everybody write down x to the second plus y to the second equals 4 negative x to the second plus y equals 2. It's a little risky to stack things on top of each other that you cannot actually add together. So just be careful. So those x squareds cancel. So you have y to the second plus y equals 6. Pull my 6 over. So I have y to the second plus y minus 6 equals 0. Then I factor. So it's going to go to a y and a y. The 6 is going to go to a 3 and a 2. Signs are different. Biggest is the plus. So the 3 is a plus and the 2 is a minus. And I get y equals 2 and y equals negative 3. And now I'm starting to feel just a little anxious because when you look at it graphically, I never had an answer that had a y value of negative 3. I only had the one that had y value of 2. That's okay. Just go with it and let's see what happens, okay? So I'm going to come over here where I'm going to write my answer. I'm going to put a y as a negative 3 and a y as a positive 2. Now I have to find the x's that go with that, okay? Look at the original problem. You know, to me, it's kind of 6's. I actually think the top equation would be better, personally, because you don't have all those negatives in there. So I'm going with the first one, okay? So x squared plus a negative 3 squared, that's a 9, is equal to 4. To solve that for x, move your 9 over. You get x to the second equals negative 5. Do you see now why the negative 3 is not really an answer? What happens, guys? You square the negative, which is a what? An imaginary. Are we really going to list an imaginary solution? No. So we're going to say invalid solution right there. It doesn't work out. Now let's do the next one. So that would be x squared plus 2 squared is 4 equals 4. Pull your 4 over. X squared equals 0. Square root. X equals 0. I got the same thing I did graphically. Of course I'm going to get the same thing graphically. It's the same answer. It's the same problem. Okay? All right. Here we go with question 4. Now, the graphically is going to start getting more difficult. Okay? Everybody listen. As the graphically gets more difficult and your anxiety starts going up and up and up, I want you to remember that I think you have like a 0.2% chance of graphically being on this test. If I could say a 0% chance and not have guilt from it, then I would say that. I just don't think it's going to be there. Okay? So just know as it gets tougher, I think you're going to be okay with graphically. I don't think it's going to be there. Okay, everybody look at the first equation and tell me what it is. What is it, everybody? It's a circle. You've got both of them squared. What's the second one? It's a line. Okay, the circle is the one that's tough, so I want everyone to just kick back and relax for a second and watch. This right here, this circle, is supposed to look like this. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to the radius squared. Well, we've got the x squared, so this is really this. We've got the y squared. Oops, sorry, not that. We've got the y squared. So this guy right here is really this right here. Then you've got the 12, that kind of represents the r squared. Then I've got this y to the first power. What do I do with that? Okay, so it's not in standard form. So we have to get it in standard form by completing the square. And that's why this gets so tough. I do not have to complete the square on the x's because there's no x to the first in that line. I do have to complete the square on the y's, okay? So let's write it down. Everybody go x to the second plus y to the second minus 4y plus blank equals 12 plus blank. I'm trying to complete the square so that I can factor this y to the second minus 4y into something nice, okay? 4 divided by 2 is a 2. 2 to the second is a 4. So I'm going to add 4 there and add 4 there. The x to the second is fine. He was never the problem. Now I'm going to take this stuff right here and I'm going to factor it. So it goes to a plus right here. And then the y to the second just goes to a y. This negative goes right there. The square root of 4 is a 2. The whole thing squared equals 12 plus 4 is 16. Now it's in standard form, okay? What did I do to get from this pink thing to that right there? I just factored it. Y minus 2 times y minus 2 is y the second minus 4y plus 4, okay? Underneath that, I want you to write x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to the radius squared. So your center, remember, is hk. So our center, there's nothing with the x in the parentheses and squared, so that's a 0. Now look at this. The y's match up, the minuses match up, so k must be 2. You don't even have to do that match up stuff. All you have to do is say, look here, and you see how that 2's a negative 2? Change the sign, so it's a 2, okay? Then radius squared is 16, so radius is 4. Okay, let's graph our circle. So don't go right or left, but go up 2. 0, 2 is right there. Then I'm going to go 4 to the right, 4 to the left, 4 up, and 4 down. And I'm going to make a circle. Okay, now I'm going to graph that line. Okay, this line needs to be solved for y. So I'm going to pull that over. So now I have y equals x minus 2. Now I'm going to graph that. So I'm going to go down 2, make a dot. The slope is 1. So up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. There's my line. I can see nice and clearly those 2 clear points where they hit, which are here and here. So my answer is 0, negative 2. And the other point is right 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 2. 4, comma 2, and I'm done. Okay, who says, I followed you? Raise your hand. Let me see a pie. Do a big race. Okay, now let's do it algebraically. Okay, so we're doing these first problems, we're doing both methods. Then we're just going to go straight to algebraically. Okay, everybody look at it. Can I use elimination? Can I use elimination? This is important. If you can't answer this question, you're not going to be able to do the problem. Okay? The top has an x squared. The bottom has no x squared. I can't use elimination on the x's. Look at the y's. The top has a y squared. The bottom does not have a y squared. I cannot use elimination. Okay? I do not want to solve equation 1 for x. I do not want to solve equation 1 for y. They're both horrible. Equation 2, I could solve for x, and I could solve for y. They'd both be pretty easy. So I'm using substitution. Okay, so everybody write down x to the second plus y to the second minus 4y equals 12. Then I want you to solve the second equation for x. And you have x equals y plus 2. Now, I'm going to go into this equation, and right there where I see an x, I'm going to put in y plus 2. So everybody go in parentheses, y plus 2 squared plus y squared minus 4y equals 12. Y minus 2 times y minus 2, you have to FOIL that. So that's y to the second plus 4y plus 4 plus y to the second minus 4y equals 12. Okay? I was just going to say, I can tell that I'm going to have to factor this. But I actually do not have to factor this. Can anybody tell me why? Can anybody see why? The y's are going to go away, which means I can put my number on the other side and square root, and that's going to be way easier. Okay, so 1y squared and 1y squared is going to give me 2y squared. The plus 4y and the minus 4y go away, so I'm going to go equals. I'm going to move my 4 to the other side, and I get an 8. Then I'm going to divide by 2. Y squared equals 4. Now I'm going to square root y equals plus or minus 2. Way easier than factoring. Okay, so now I'm going to say y is 2, y is -2. Okay, now where am I going to go? The sweet thing about substitution, I don't like substitution, I think it's tougher, but the sweet thing is, you go to that solved equation and getting the next variable is a breeze. So that would be x equals y, which is 2, plus 2, that gives me 4. If y is a -2, that's a -2 plus 2, which gives me a 0, and I'm done. Okay? All right, let's do 5. Look at 6 and tell me if we have to graph 6. Okay, good. So the 5 is the last tough one, okay? But it's going to be a whopper, okay? Here we go. Step number 1. What is this? Okay, everybody look at the first one and tell me what it is. It's a parabola. Okay, let's write that down. The second one is a what? A circle. This is about as tough as graphically could get, and I don't think graphically is going to be on your final. Okay, so I'm just bringing you down a little bit. Okay, I have to get this in standard form, the parabola. So I'm going to complete the square. So I'm going to bring this 1 over to the left-hand side. So I'm going to go y plus 1 plus blank equals. Hey, I want to say something about completing the square. When I taught you how to complete the square, some of you were stuck on the secondary 3 method, and you would not convert over to the Waller method, and you started getting very mixed up. It was not good for you. So you've got to try to convert right now if you haven't yet, okay? On the right, you have x to the second minus 4x plus blank. The linear term is a 4. Divided by 2, you get a 2. Raise it to the second, you get a 4. So I'm going to add 4 here, and I'm going to add 4 there. So then I get y plus 5 equals. Factor the right, and it goes to an x. That sign right there is a negative. Square root of 4 is a 2. The whole thing's squared. To get it in standard form, it's x minus 2 squared minus 5, and now I'm ready. Okay? Look at the next one. You have to complete the square twice. Look. See this x squared? Do you see how this x is hanging around? The x can't be there. So you're going to have to complete the square on the x's. Look at the y's. Do you see how you have a y squared and a plain y? That plain y causes problems, so I have to complete the square on the y. So I have to complete the square twice. Okay? Here we go. X to the second minus 4x plus blank plus y to the second plus 14y plus blank equals negative 49 plus blank plus blank. Complete the square on the x's. 4 divided by 2 is a 2. 2 to the second is a 4. So I'm going to put a 4 there, and I'm going to put a 4 on the other side. I have to keep it balanced. Look at the y's. 14 divided by 2 is a 7. 7 to the second is 49. So I put it on the left, and I also put it on the right. Now I'm going to factor my x's. So the x squared goes to an x. This sign is a negative, so I put it right there. Square root of 4 is a 2, and the whole thing is squared. Now do your y's. Y the second goes to a y. The middle sign is a plus. Square root of 49 is a 7. The whole thing's squared. On the right-hand side, you have a negative 49 and a positive 49. Those go away, so you just have a 4. So my center of my circle is positive 2, negative 7, and the radius is 2. Aren't you glad you about have a 0 chance of graphing? Are you glad about that? Yeah. Yes. Okay, let's graph the parabola. Go down 5. Make a dot. Oh no, we have to go right 2, huh? We're going to go down 5, right 2. Okay, thank you. We good? The vertex of my parabola is 2, 7. So I'm going to go right 2, down 5. I'm glad you figured out why they were saying 7. I'm like, why are they saying 7? Normal stretch. Right one up one, left one up one. right 2 up, 4, left 2 up, 4. Look at all that room I have left. I better do another one. The next one is going to be 3, 9. So here and here. Oh, not there, there. Okay, graph that parabola. If it ends up being up high, I might have to see if I can do the next one. The next one's going to be 4, 16, because 4 squared is 16. But I'm just going to do that for now. Let's see what happens. Okay, the next one is a circle that has a center at positive 2, negative 7. So I'm going to go right 2, down 7. So I'm right there. Then my radius is 2. So I can see where they cross. It's just right on that vertex, which is positive 2, negative 5, and I'm done. Okay, that's the last graphing one we're going to do. Okay, now we're going to do this monster algebraically. Okay, here we go. What would I do? Well, can you imagine this? Listen right here. Look at this. Substitution. Look. Take that guy. Put him here. And square. No thanks. And then put him here and distribute the 4. I am not doing that. I'm not. Okay. I'm going to set it up so that they look the same. I'm going to take this right here. I'm going to leave my constant on the right, the way that guy is, and I'm going to put everything on the left. I'm going to try to line it up. Okay, so the x squared comes over and becomes a negative. The 4x comes over and becomes a positive. The 1 comes over and becomes a positive. I'll just put it over here somewhere, like plus 1. And, oh no, I don't have to move the 1. Sorry, the 1's supposed to stay. And then I have a y, right? And then I have an equals negative 1. Okay, so look how sweet this turns out. X's go away on both of them. So by just moving them over and adding them, I've eliminated all of the x's. So now I have y to the second plus 15y equals negative 50. Move your 50 over. Y to the second plus 15y plus 50 equals 0. Then I factor y and y. Signs are the same, they're both positive. 10 and 5 multiply to give me 50 and add to give me 15. So I get y equals negative 5 and y equals negative 10. Okay, plugging this back in is not fun. Which one do you think is going to be better, the top one or the bottom one? What would you do? The top one. Yeah, let's put in a negative 5. Okay, so let's try the first one. Everybody go x to the second minus 4x minus 1 equals negative 5. So I'm putting a value of negative 5. If I wanted to, I could come over here and say there's an answer of negative 5. There's an answer that has a y of negative 10. Okay, pull my 5 over. So I have x to the second minus 4x plus 4 equals 0. Then I factor x and x. Signs are the same, they're both negative. 2 and 2 multiply to give me 4 and add to give me 4, and I get x equals 2. So that guy matches up. Okay, now I'm going to do a negative 10. So everybody go x to the second minus 4x minus 1 equals negative 10. Pull my negative 10 over. So I have x to the second minus 4x plus 9 equals 0. I can look at that and tell it doesn't factor. I know the solution is not going to work out because I didn't get that answer right graphically. So does the fact that it won't factor make it an invalid solution? Yes or no? I'm going to say it again. I want you to listen. Does the fact that that does not factor mean that it's going to end up as an invalid solution? Yes or no? No, it does not, because I can do what? Quadratic formula. Let's go. X equals 4. Plus or minus the square root of a negative 4 squared is 16. Minus 4 times 1 times 9 all over 2 times 1 is 2. Now I know it's an invalid solution. How do I know that? You're going to have a negative inside that root. You're going to have 16 minus 36, which is negative 20. That's an imaginary. We're not going to have imaginary solutions. So we're going to say invalid solution. I'm going to come over there. I'm going to get rid of the negative 10, and that's my only guy. Okay? Why don't you stand up for a minute? Everybody stand up. Okay? Stand, stand, stand. I got to get myself psyched up too. I want to look at how many we have left. The last lessons have been horrible. We only have 5 more. We're going to be fine. Let's see your hair. You didn't have to cut it.
Oh, no, I didn't like that.
Oh, let's see. Let's see, turn. Oh, how nice. Walk around and show everyone. Can everyone see his hair? Show him again. Take it off. Look. How long is the cul-de-sac extender head? That's what I want to know. Just a day. Okay. Well, it looks great. Very nice of you. Quite a sacrifice. I don't think there's a girl in this room that would do that, right? Not for much, huh? Have to be a pretty high stakes. Okay, here we go. Question 6. Okay. I'm going to pick it up a little. If I start going too fast, tell me slow down. Okay? Ask me to slow down. No more graphing, so that's nice. And I don't think graphing's going to be there. Yeah, thank heavens, right? Can I use elimination? Yes, I can, right? It's going to be pretty easy. If I just multiply this equation by 2, I'll have a 2y squared and a negative 2y squared, and that'll do it. Okay? So everybody write down 3x to the second plus 2y squared equals 36. Distribute the 2 and you have 8x to the second minus 2y to the second equals 8. Those cancel out. You get 11x to the second is equal to 44. Divide by 11. You get x squared equals 4. Square root it, and you get plus or minus 2. So this is ending up much easier than the other ones, right? Okay, let's do 2 and negative 2. Which one would you choose to plug in? Would you choose the top one or the bottom one? I think I would choose the top. I don't like those negatives, so I'm going with the top. I'm going to put in a 2 for x. So that's 3 times 2 squared plus 2y squared equals 36. 2 to the second is a 4. 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm going to have 2y to the second equals. My 12 comes over and becomes a negative, and I get 24. Then I divide by 2. I get y squared equals 12. Square root it, y equals, what comes right after the equals? Plus or minus square root of 12. Now that's not okay. Why is that not okay? You can simplify it, right? So 12 is 2 times 6. 6 is 2 times 3. These two 2's come out. So it's really plus or minus 2 square root of 3. That's when x was a 2. Okay? So I'm going to come over here and go 2. And then I'm going to write it as separate terms just because I'm afraid. So I'm going to go 2 squared root of 3 and then 2 comma negative 2 squared root of 3. Okay, now look at this. Everybody just look forward for a second. Look, if x was a negative 2, then I'd put a negative 2 right there. A negative 2 times a negative 2 is a 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Pull it over, it becomes a negative. Is it going to be any different? Yes or no? Talk to me. It's going to be the same thing. So this would be 2 square root of 3 right here. And this is negative 2 square root of 3. And I actually have 4 answers. Okay? Okay, question 7. What would you use? I'm going to go with what you say. We can use substitution. We can use elimination. Who says substitution? Raise your hand. You guys are just like me. Who says elimination? Okay, elimination, let's do it. But I can't do it right now. There's something funky. What is it? The equal sign's not lined up, right? So I'm going to take this y squared and I'm going to pull it that way. So then I'm going to have x minus y squared equals -1. Now I'm looking at those two equations. It's going to be easy to get rid of the y squareds if I just multiply this guy by a 3. So then I'm going to have 3x minus 3y squared equals -3. Underneath that, x squared plus 3y squared equals 13. The y squareds go away. So I have x to the second plus 3x equals 10. Move my 10 over. X to the second plus 3x minus 10 equals 0. Factor x and x. 10 goes to a 5 and a 2. Subtract to give me 3. Biggest is the positive. I get x equals 2 and -5. Go to the place I'm going to write my answer. Put an x value of 2, put an x value of -5. Okay? Where would you go? I think I would go to the second. I think I'd go right there. So let's put a 2 in for x. So you have 2 equals y squared minus 1. Pull your 1 over. Y squared equals 3. Square root y equals plus or minus the square root of 3. So I'm going to have 2 square root of 3, and then I'm going to have 2 negative square root of 3. Now I'm going to put in a -5 for x. So I'm going to go -5 equals y squared minus 1. Pull my y over. Y squared equals -4. Talk to me. Won't work out, right? It's going to be imaginary. So I'm going to say invalid solution. I'm going to take my eraser. I'm going to get rid of that -5 ordered pair. I'm going to highlight my answer. I'm going to make sure I check them. And then I'm good. Okay? All right, here's 8. No joke. No joke. This was on my students' final. I taught them how to do systems. This was never in my notes. And my final came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're killing us. You're killing us. But they did okay. Look at it. If you just stay calm and look, it's not as horrific as it seems. Somebody talk to us about this. You've got 2 over y and 2 over y. If I could just change one of the signs, the 2 over y's are going to go away. Okay? So let's just do this. Let's just go negative. Let's just grab our pencil here and let's make this guy a negative and this guy a positive and this guy negative. So I'm just going to change it right there. Okay? Now, positive 2 over y, negative 2 over y go away. Okay? Now, you have to know how to combine a -1 over x and a -3 over x. The denominator stays an x. Somebody tell me what you have on the top. -4, yeah. -1, -3 is -4, yeah. Equals a -7 and a -5 is a -12, okay? You guys, listen to me for a second. Freeze for just a second. You should look at that right there. And just like jumping on a bike, you know, riding a bike. If you don't ride a bike for a year, do you get on and you're like, oh, no, you just go. So you should be able to look at this and go, bam, I know exactly what to do. And I don't feel like we're where we should be. I feel like we got to improve on this. 2 words is what I want you to say right now. What are the words? Cross multiply. Yes. If you don't see that and know cross multiplication is the next step, you've got to get there. Okay, because I'm sure you're going to come in this situation several times on your final. Cross multiply, and you get -12x equals -4, divide, and you get x equals, is it 3? It is not. It's 12 over 4, which is, tell me, 1 over 3. Yeah, it's not 3, it's 1/3. Okay, now this is just a little bit ugly, but nothing that you can't handle, okay? I'm going to go back to the original equation 1. And I'm going to put in a 1/3 for x. I'm substituting it back in, okay? So I'm going to go 1 divided by 1/3 minus 2 over y is equal to 5. Do you know what 1 divided by 1/3 is just in your head? Can you do that? If you don't, it's fine. Look at this. 1 divided by 1/3. That's 1 over 1 divided by 1/3. That's 1 over 1 multiplied by 3 over 1. What's that? That just means 1 times 3, right? So this is just 3 minus 2 over y equals 5. Tell me what to do now. Some people are like multiplying by y or something like that. No. What do? Move your 3. So negative 2 over y equals 2. I want 2 words coming out of your mouth right now. What are they? Cross multiply. You get 2y equals negative 2, divide, and you get y equals negative 1. Remember, this is given as a system, so you have to write it as 1/3, comma, negative 1, and you're done. Check it. Check it, check it, check it, please. On your quiz and on your final, check it. Okay? Okay, question 9. After all that, this is what I think you're going to get. This is my prediction, and I'm pretty good at predicting. I would put $5 down on this prediction. I wouldn't do 20. I would do 5. Okay? So it's kind of weird because one of them is added and one of them is multiplied, and this is kind of funky. Somebody give us an idea that looks kind of clean, like not so crazy. What do you think? So tell us, you're right. So tell us what to do.
Like you move the x over and then just plug in the y.
Let's solve equation number 2 for y. That's what you're wanting to do. So if you solve equation 2 for y, you get y equals 2 minus x. Okay? Now I'm going to plug that into equation 1. So I'm going to have x multiplied by y, which is 2 minus x, equals 5 over 4. Okay, now everybody stay calm. What do? One word, you can tell me what to do. Distribute. Yeah, distribute. Multiply that out, right? So you have 2x minus x to the second equals 5 over 4. Now, we hate that 5 over 4. I know it's stressing you out. Don't worry, we can knock it out quick, okay? Bring the 5 over 4 over. So now you have negative x to the second plus 2 over x minus 5 over 4 equals 0. Someone tell me how to knock out that 4 fast. Times everything by 4. Yep, times everything but what you're trying to get rid of. So go 4, 4, 4, 4. So now you have negative 4x to the second plus 8x. 4's cancel, minus 5 equals 0. Much nicer. Still ugly. What's ugly? The negative. Get rid of it right now. Okay? So I'm going to, you could change all the signs. You could factor out a negative. I'm just going to factor out a negative. Okay? So it looks like this. Okay, I made a small little mistake. Not a big deal. This thing will not factor now. Do you see that it won't factor? Okay, so let me just tell you the original problem. I had to make these up, and they are not easy. It took me literally, I was like pulling my hair trying to find one that worked. Okay, this is not going to freak us out. Go to the original and make it a negative. That's all we have to do. So what's that going to change? It's going to make this guy a negative right here. It's going to make this guy a negative right here. When I pull it over, it's going to make it a positive. So this 5 is a positive. So when I pull out a negative, it's going to make it a, talk to me, negative. Now it's going to factor. So I just messed up, and I'm very, very sorry about that. Okay? Okay, take out a negative. So the 4x to the second is going to go to a, just give me a second. Give me 2 seconds. I know it goes to a 2 and a 2, the way I set it up. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Okay, so the 4x a second goes to a 2x and a 2x. The 5 is going to go to a 5 and a 1. So that's going to give me a 10 and a 2, which subtract to give me 8. So I'm good. The biggest needs to be the sign I'm looking for, which is a negative. So the negative goes there, and the positive goes there. Okay? The negative gives me nothing. I don't have to do any altering of signs because of the negative. I just disregard it. Set that equal to 0, I get a negative 1/2. Set that equal to 0, I get a positive 5/2. Who's still with me? Raise your hand. This is so important. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to come right here, negative 1/2 and 5/2, and then now I have to find the y that goes with it. I'm going to find the easiest place to do that. Okay. I honestly think that the easiest place, the place you're going to be the most successful at, is right there. Yeah, I don't think we want to deal with all those fractions in the pink one. Okay, so let's do that one. Okay, so let's go negative 1/2 plus y equals 2. Bring your 1/2 over, and you get y equals 2 plus 1/2. There are 2 ways you could write that. Okay, you could write it as 2.5. You could also write it like this. 2 is the same thing as 4/2, right? So 4/2 plus 1/2 is 5/2. Okay, let's do the next one. Do that same yellow equation. So x, which is 5/2, plus y equals 2. Bring the 5/2 over. You guys, I'm going to write my 4 as, my 2, pardon me, as 4/2 right now. So then I've got my common denominator. 5/2 comes over and becomes a negative. 4 minus 5 is a negative 1. I know that's a negative 1/2, and that's it. Okay? I'm telling you, a lot of money, I'd bet. It's going to be there. You have to know how to do it. You've got to know how to do it. Who says, I understand question 9. I followed you. Let me see. Okay, great. Yes, honey. You have a question, Savannah? You okay? Okay, here's 10 and then we're done. We're barely going to make it. Let's do it. The sum of 2 numbers is 7. Somebody tell me what sum means. What does that mean? Add. So what if I don't know the numbers, what should I put the numbers? X and Y. So if you take X and you add it to Y, what does the word is translate into in math? Yeah, it's like we're in Spanish class right now. So it's equals 7. Is equals. Okay. The sum, so again, adding, they're squares. What does that mean? They're squares. X squared and Y squared. So the sum of their squares is, which translate to equals 29. There's your setup. Can I use elimination? No. Solve the top equation for X or Y. It doesn't matter. Let's do X. So you have X equals 7 minus Y. Okay. Come right here to X and put 7 minus Y. 7 minus y times 7 minus y, you have to FOIL that. That gives you 49. And then you get a negative 7y and a negative 7y. That gives you a negative 14y. A negative y times a negative y is a plus y squared. You still have another plus y squared equals 29. I know I'm going to have to factor. So I've got to set it equal to 0. 1y squared plus 1y squared is 2y squared. Minus 14y. 29 comes over and becomes a negative. So I have plus 20 equals 0. Tell me what to do. Take out a 2. And I'm left with y to the second minus 7y plus 10 equals 0. Factor. So the y to the second goes to y and a y. Signs are the same. They're both negative. 5 and 2 multiply to give me 10 and add to give me 7. The 2 gives me no solution. The y minus 2 gives me a 2. The y minus 5 gives me a 5. Okay? Now, let's just write it like this for a second. We'll talk about it. So y is a 5. y is a 2. So I'm going to go, the nice thing about substitution is that, I didn't mean to cross that, sorry. The nice thing about substitution is finding the second answer is easy. So right there was x equals 7 minus y. Y is a 5. X is 7 minus 5, which is 2. Do the next one. If y is a 2, then you get x equals 7 minus 2, which is 5. Can anybody, you're not supposed to write the answers in ordered pair because it wasn't given to you as a system. You made the system. Can anybody tell me the answer? Look at what I've got. It's just 5 and 2. Doesn't matter if it's 2 and 5 or 5 and 2. It's just two numbers that add together to give me 7, and when you add their squares, you get 29. Okay? Okay, that's it. I want everyone to just freeze. Okay? I want everyone to freeze. Okay, look right here in my eyes. I feel like you're like, clear up here, stress. I got to talk you down a little bit. Okay, so I'm bringing you down right now, just so you know. Okay. You guys are amazing. You are so smart. Okay? I know you can do this. Quiz 4 is next time. You got a lot to do. It's not going to have a huge effect on your grade. Okay? So do your best. Study hard. Don't freak out. No need to freak out. If it was the final, I'd say go ahead and start freaking out. Okay? It's not the final. It's just a quiz. Okay? It's just a quiz. Here's the one more thing I want to say to bring you down one more notch. Right? Sometimes I take your quizzes that I make up, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a hard one. Like, remember quiz 4 or quiz 3? I was like, that's going to be a tough one. I think quiz 4 is going to be easy. I don't know. But that's because you guys are amazing. So